City Center.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's almost as ornate as our wonderful Lowe's Wonder Theater.
Yep. Yep.
City Center's the one in the theater district?
It's the one on 55th Street.
Okay, I have been there before. I just did not remember that's what it looked like.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
I was there on Saturday, actually Saturday and a week before on Sunday. I was pointing out to, one of my friends that in the sort of the lobby area on the Grand Tier, if you were there in the late 1970s, the ceiling was sort of painted off-white. And when, the restoration project for City Center got underway, they discovered that under that white paint is that wonderful, painted ceiling that's there now. So at some point, it just got painted over and probably forgotten to history. And then when they started restoring it, it's like, oh my God, underneath the paint, it's like, look at this. So I don't remember what this part, which is in the auditorium, looked like, but I don't think in the late 70s it was, this color scheme was there. It might also have been kind of painted over in white.
That would be some 70s things to do.
Yeah, well, yeah, 60s, everything was modern.
Yeah, they're like out with it all.
Out with it all. All right, Catherine, I think we're one person short and then we can get started.
Yeah, I see. Oh, yeah. 6, 7.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Faye.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, Faye.
Hi, how's everybody?
Good. Hanging in
In a jolly good mood.
there.
The holidays, right? Even though COVID has forever changed the holidays, it's so annoying. You're always running from something now.
No, that's right. Oh, I should share. Sorry, guys. I'm a little all over the place. Eliezer is joining late. Is the word? Yeah, late.
He will be late, correct.
So I'll be chairing, and Angel will be here with us. I may hop off a little earlier, right?
Yeah, I'll be serving secretarial role, as has been practiced for a few months now. But I have to jump I have to jump for a different meeting that always happens also on the third Thursday of every month. And so with this one coinciding, it was a little challenging for me, but I will be here until then.
I'm also hopping off, or I have to hop off at 8 o'clock for a standing meeting the third Thursday.
Yeah.
So third Thursdays don't work for Wayne.
No,
no.
Thursdays are not good.
Well, they work as long as I'm free by 8 o'clock.
That's been part of my problem. I've been wanting to join the what am I thinking about? The district service cabinet meetings, but unfortunately, our Waikoa has the general meeting on the third Thursday, so I haven't been able to join the other meeting. What can I do?
Tough. Let's see, Catherine, is there anyone we can maybe nudge?
Let me see. Let me text Mario.
Or text Debbie.
Steve is a late bird. Let's see, 2.
Let me get the agenda. I forgot. Let me put it again.
Thinking what we'll do, I'll give folks another minute, and if they don't join in, we'll play. Oh, I think I see another square.
Yes.
All right, there we go.
We have quorum. Let's get started.
Thank you, Liz. Even though she can't really hear us yet. All right, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. The time is 6:40. Thank you all for being on time. I'm going to move right along because Eliezer is not here onto our district manager's report. So welcome back from vacay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Always a pleasure being here. It's good to be back from vacation. It was too short. The first item that I would like to report is that on Monday, December 5th, we had 2 interns from the cloth internship program that started to work with us in the office. They are helping us organize, to continue organizing the files, and also to continue organizing our website, et cetera, et cetera. One of the interns was the intern that worked with us during the summertime. So she is familiar with the office environment, and they will be with us until the end of March. This morning we had the district service cabinet meeting, and we have a very interesting report from the Department of Transportation saying that the West 191st Street tunnel has been assigned to the Department of Sanitation for cleanup. According to the DOT representative, this happened 2 weeks ago from the mayor's office. The representative from the Department of Sanitation did not know that one, and nobody knows about it yet, but we are still following up to see if this is true or what the type of program or assignment is that the 191st Street tunnel has been assigned to the Department of Sanitation to be cleaned up on the regular basis. The actual status is that that tunnel is considered a street and is under DOT responsibility, and DOT was coming to clean this tunnel every other week. I follow up also with the Department of Transportation, and the Park Department, the issue that we have on the path to the Little Red Lighthouse. You may recall last month during the general meeting, it was brought to my attention that the group that volunteers that clean up Jehu Ride, they have some issue with it. It happens that I have been discussing this matter since this summer when I was there with Department of Parks and also with DOT. And I observed the condition with a big sinkhole, the fallen railing, and I had been following up with this. As a matter of fact, last month during the district service cabinet meeting, the representative from Senator Jackson said that he has some money that can be used for a special project. I made the suggestion that if it's possible, the Parks Department apply for those money. And they told me this morning that these funds were not available for capital projects. Nevertheless, this morning I asked a favor to the Department of Transportation to see if they can help to make that area safe in the meantime, because the Department of Transportation is a bigger agency and may have better resources than Parks Department. And I asked just to cut the pipes, pick up whatever is left there on the floor and make the sinkholes paved. That's what happened this morning. Let me see, the 33rd precinct report that they are the #1 precinct in the entire city of New York in crime reduction, and everybody celebrate that. We have a new representative, new liaison from the New York, New Jersey Port Authority. They're going to be representing the agency. They're going to be our liaison. This person has started this morning. I will call him tomorrow to really establish a relationship with him. And a new issue that came to my attention during the meeting is the mobile car wash. You probably may see it, vans with on the street, all over the city, all over the district, washing cars for money, and they need to have a license from Consumer Affairs. But also, it was brought to my attention that they dispose the dirty water and the chemical to our sewers and also to the river. And we're planning to have an in-depth discussion the next month, that is the District Service Cabinet meeting. This is the end of my report. Is there any question? I see 2 hands up. Catherine, you first.
Yeah, it was 2 things now, actually. First, the thing, I'll be in, sorry, around the 191 Street tunnel, they had put up the signs maybe about a month ago, I think. And it looks like the MTA tunnels, but to be quite honest with you, and that's feedback you can share with them, I thought it was fake, because for so long we've talked about the 191st Street tunnel being, DOT, and then it's like all of these agencies working together, and they put it up as a notice on a black and white MTA style sign. But I thought it was almost like a fake one because so many people did it and there was no notice to the board or anything, and it hasn't come through the board in terms of like, hey, this is who's going to be leading here. Someone's it's Faye. Faye, can you mute real quick, please? There's a lot of background. My second point, I was going to say around mobile car wash, not new at all. I want to recommend that that discussion or that agency does get teed up to business development at some point, right? So that way we're able to bring forth folks who, they can present what are the parameters. Mobile car washes have been around for a very long time up here, incredibly popular. And so, if there are going to be increased enforcement, that should come through business development and, is a prime space also for some of those vendors to join the meeting and understand, changes in the city. So I want to share that. And that's it.
Thank you, Catherine. But one of the main issues was not only, they have license, most of them. It's the way they dispose the water to the river. But yes, let me explore next month exactly to see what the issues are. And yes, I will forward this issue to our business development. Thank you. Liz?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for following up on that issue with the path from Haven Avenue back behind Jacob Wright Park going to Fort Washington Park. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Steve?
Hi, Ebenezer.
Yes.
We've spoken about this in the past. Have you called the State Department of Health to ask for a response to the resolution we passed last June, calling for the reinstatement of the psych beds at the Allen Hospital?
Steve, I was out on vacation just right after you asked me for that. Let me do that tomorrow. I had too many meetings since I came. Tomorrow I have another one early in the morning, but I will do that tomorrow, make my business and get back to you on that one. I'm making a note with a red pen here to follow up tomorrow, okay?
All right, well, I'm concerned because Commissioner Bassett is leaving at the end of the month.
Yes, you mentioned that when we were there for Sally event. Yes, I will do that tomorrow. Follow up with the state health department.
Yeah, please.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. This is the end of my report.
Thank you, Ebenezer. All right, next up, we're going to go to, where's the calendars? Sorry, I'm looking for the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it the calendars? Yeah, sorry.
Yep,
All
the
right.
calendars are next.
So
January,
does
then
everybody
February.
have the January calendars handy, or do they need to be shared on the screen?
I have it.
Okay. Liz, Steve, if you don't mind lowering hands, because I can't lower hands, or if you can, Ebenezer.
I think Liz is
That
a
was,
new
that was a
hand.
new hand. It's
Oh,
a new
okay.
hand.
Perfect.
Steve is an old hand.
No, no,
All right,
I'm
mine
Liz,
just,
is,
go
I'm
ahead.
just,
mine is a new hand
I'm
too.
just curious, I'm just curious about February. You're showing the executive committee meeting and the general meeting at 7 o'clock, not 6:30. So is that a typo, or are we talking about a change of moving the time to 30 minutes later? And
No,
if it's a
that was a
can you
typo.
fix
That was a
Okay.
typo.
Okay,
I
if you could
I
fix that,
prepared
that'd
that
be
calendar
great.
very quickly this afternoon. It was a mess. But I made the
Okay.
correction already, okay?
Great, thank you.
The other thing, I'm wondering what, oh, I'm sorry,
Hold on, Steve, do you have a?
not my hand.
Steve-
I gotta put my hand up. Sorry.
Thank you, Mary. Steve, was that your same point?
No, but I am referring to the February calendar. Shouldn't
Okay,
the,
let me go through Mary if Mary
Your
has for
Monday.
January.
I see you Monday.
You close the
Tomorrow.
window?
Yeah. Okay, the light is
Oh my
working.
God,
Oh,
I can't mute folks, sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Mary, is your change for January? Or your comment?
No, January is fine. February is fine. I was just wondering,
Good night.
It's okay.
hold on.
All right, I'll move to
Sorry,
Steve,
my
while you handle
superset.
that.
I'm
It's
just
okay.
wondering why the executive committee is on Thursday and the general board meeting is on Tuesday, the 21st. Why can't the general meeting be the 28th? And the executive committee be the 21st?
okay,
That seems like a solid.
Like they are.
You're
in
right
January.
about it.
That
You
would
are
make
right
a lot of
about it.
sense.
Yeah, and also the third Thursday seems to be a conflict for folks. So I think, yeah, definitely I wanted to move it anyway. So the 21st, 28th.
I'm
No,
sorry.
and-
Are we talking January or February? I'm just trying to get this right.
Sorry,
for
we're
the-
on February right now.
Okay.
So
So
moving executive committee to the 21st at 6:30 and the general board meeting the 28th of February at 6:30 as well.
okay, thank you.
Steve, you have another, and Steve, you have an edit for February.
no, Mary stole it.
Oh.
That was gonna be my point. She took it
Oh,
away
look at
from me.
that.
Sorry.
Folks, do the times look good? Still the same times? Okay.
Marielle has her hand up. I'm not sure if it's
Oh, she's
Yeah,
just
Marcia.
trying.
Yes, hi, sorry, I had to join a little bit late. The time for the Housing and Human Services Committee for January, it should be 7 PM and not 6:30. Please, thank you.
You got that, Ebenezer, and if we can make sure the Zoom link gets fixed for that too. Steve, is that a new hand? I guess not.
Old hand.
Okay. All right. Guess we're in good shape. Cool. If I hear no other changes, that addresses January, February calendars. Liz, you got one more?
No, this isn't for the calendar. This is a request for me to be able to make my committee presentation first because I got to jump into a 7 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, there's a few people who got to jump. So, Liz, you can go ahead.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So should I go?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So our last meeting was extremely productive. We had at our November meeting, we had 2 resolutions, one of which was on the 186th Street basketball. There were some questions and concerns where we needed some more community input. So we had that at the December committee meeting. And my assumption was that we would have a resolution to present to the board, but the community had still more feedback. And in a really unusual move, the Parks Department designers agreed to go back to the drawing board and make some of these changes, and they will be coming back either in January or in February to present a third iteration of the design. I just really want to point out for people how unusual that is, and that in a time when we as community advocates and activists are often frustrated with agencies for, just rolling over and not listening to communities, the Parks Department is working in an absolute partnership with the community to give the community what it wants. And I wish all of the agencies did that. It was really kind of a beautiful thing. So we'll be having that resolution in, January or February. And we will be presenting a resolution at next week's meeting in support of the New York City tree forest canopy and calling on the city to plant 1 million street trees in order to, clean the air and have more trees. So that's my report.
Are there any questions? Okay. I would add just, I know, as soon as they give you the date, Liz, if you can let this squad of folks know, because I know that court in particular has had really high attendance.
Yes. Yes.
You can circulate it. Cool.
Yeah, as soon as I know. And I also did want to just point out for anybody that hadn't heard the incredible news that in 2023, the Tony Awards are going to be at United Palace instead of being downtown, which is amazing. So that'll be June 11th, 2023. Broadway's going to come uptown, and I think that's really dope.
Yeah, super cool. All right, thanks, Liz. I think the next person that has to jump was Wayne, if you want to go next.
I have to jump, but I don't have really anything to report. I was not able to make the December Land Use Committee meeting, and I'm informed that there were no applications to be considered, and there was no older new business. So it was a rather short and uneventful meeting.
Wow, once a year maybe that happens.
Or once every 10
For everyone
years.
but licensing.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let me see. Let's go back to the top. Oh, Steve Simon.
Yeah, I just want to say that if there's nothing on a committee's agenda, I think it's okay to cancel the meeting. I don't think there's much of a point in having people show up for a meeting that only lasts 3.5 minutes.
Well, just as a point of clarification, I mean, from my perspective, there have been a couple of times when there were no, items for consideration, but that did not prevent land use from having an hour and a half or 2 hour, detailed conversations about a number of things. And what I found a little surprising is at last month's meeting, Councilman Abreu, raised the question with the committee about, what strategy did we see with, advancing our, request for rezoning? Was that something that we expected city planning to do on its own, or as community board? 9 is done rather effectively of having elected officials, Scott Stringer years ago, and now Mark Levine, and then, Councilman Abreu advance their, rezoning or historic preservation objectives. And so that's something we talked about briefly last month, and this would have been a perfect opportunity for the committee to brainstorm about, and I suggest we do so in January, but that I think would have been a great opportunity to, do that.
Well, should have been, then let's list it on the agenda so that people know what they should be talking about.
Yeah, but my point is the committee members, old business, new business, this is something we talked about the prior month, and it was a perfect opportunity to continue the conversation as opposed to just canceling the meeting.
I would have put it on the agenda.
So, I mean, but I think in general that's a great point and a discussion item that I think that as exec committee we can keep talking about, right? What does happen? Jim, I feel like he's gonna bring a parliamentarian point.
Semi. I basically agree with Wayne. And the other thing is, at the moment, we have virtual meetings. So going to a meeting is clicking twice on your computer screen. It's not like you have to schlep to 166th Street. So, and if it's not much of a meeting, well, then you just click again. And, you know, as Wayne pointed out, occasionally people wander in who have essentially really important new business, which we might not discuss at that particular meeting anyway, but we would certainly counter it for the next meeting. And so I think, you know, I unfortunately disagree with my colleague Steve, especially certainly now while meetings are so easy to go to. I mean, on a stormy day, and if we have nothing to do, I really don't want to go to 166th Street to a meeting. You know, that's absolutely true. But, well, those are my views. Thank you.
Sorry, guys. I think, and we can keep talking about this in the future, but I would say that, you know, we rarely get time to do planning during committee meetings. A lot of that tends to happen offline. And so when there are, you know, shorter agenda items, it's always kind of like a gift in terms of being able to have more in-depth discussions in terms of what committee works and, you know, what do we want to do in the next few months or anything like that. But we'll move on to Mary. We're gonna go
I
back to the
agree.
top of the list. Yeah.
I agree also, which is kind of what happened at our meeting on the 1st of December. Much of the meeting was spent having members chime into things they would like to hear more about as far as presenters go. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that word this morning. Today it happened this morning to me too. Anyway, presentations is the word I'm looking for. So we got a lot of ideas thrown out, and actually it's filled up the calendar for the next 6 months with you know, different presentations. So our January 5th meeting, we're going to have a presentation from the Alzheimer's Research Department at Columbia. Dr. Honig is going to be presenting, and I actually heard his presentation last week, and it's great information about what's going on with Alzheimer's and the research that's happening right here in our neck of the woods. So that's what will happen. If I may, well, I guess I can ask something at the end.
You can ask now.
Well, it's a question for Ebenezer, actually. I don't know if he's able to answer or, yes. Ebenezer, do you know anything about the updates for the committees, committee assignments? Because I've been asking Eleazar, and he's told me a week ago and then a few days ago that I'd be getting an updated, because I have people that are listed to be on my committee that I don't believe are on my committee, but I have to keep marking them absent. And if there was a secretary that was really keeping track of absences, these two people would be, you know, up for being taken off the board at this
Yes,
point.
you're talking about Simari. Simari resigned from the board. I just learned that
No,
yesterday.
not Samari, no.
Simari's not on that committee anyway.
Cindy Matos and Miriam James are listed as being committee members.
So I think it was Cindy Matos that resigned because she was moved out of the district from her job. That was the standing that she had. I just learned that yesterday.
But I'm going by what I have. And
Can
if I don't have a real committee list, then I have to do what I have to do. And, you know, it's getting frustrating. I'm sending emails out to these people and, you know, I'm asking for help. I'm asking for an updated committee list and I'm not getting it.
Okay.
And also one of my public members is not listed as being on the committee.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can
I
you-
will look into that, get back to you tomorrow.
I was gonna say, Mary, can you just send a formal email, because I think Paola also has been keeping track of the attendance with the 2 names and then the public member that's not listed who should be listed.
And I now have a third public member assigned, you know, that was, you know, given membership to my committee.
That's
So,
excellent. Yeah. So if they're also not listed on the roster on the site, send that over so that can get fixed.
and I don't think they're getting the information for the meetings either. I mean, I've been making sure that they get the agenda and they get the link, but
The public members or
the public members,
Okay. Okay.
and that's something we need to know if it's going out to them or not, because the only link that they seem to be getting are the ones I sent to them, as well as the agenda.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful too when you send that over, send the email that you use to communicate with them, just so that hopefully Paola or Chanel or the office have the same one. Short on that.
Chanel knows because I've been asking her about it too.
Okay. Okay, so that's some digging there that folks got to do.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mary. Next up, we have Isidro with licensing.
Thank you, Catherine. So practically nothing to report from licensing. We had about 12 operators, but about 2 of them withdrew. Very simple meeting.
Isidro, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm saying that we had 12 applicants. Not much of a controversy. The meeting flew quite fast. Nothing extraordinary to report. I'm going to work hard to get the rest on time because the general board meeting is on Tuesday. So definitely work out this week and make sure that Vanessa is received by Sunday. Thank you, Chair.
So 10 resos are going to be presented.
Correct.
Okay. All right, excellent. No, I see no questions for Isidro. We'll move on to health and environment for Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Well, our meeting fell on December the 1st, which is World AIDS Day. So as we do every year, we had a presentation from a staff person at the hospital on the current status of their services and programs on HIV/AIDS. I think we got a fairly detailed presentation. I'm trying to get a hold of the PowerPoint, so maybe I can send it around. But I mean, it shows that there's still some hope that in the coming years of eliminating HIV/AIDS, that some progress is continuing to be made, and the hospital is doing, I think, a pretty good job in servicing thousands of people with HIV/AIDS. So the material, the details should be in the PowerPoint, which I hope to be able to send around. We also had a presentation from an engineering firm that has been hired to work on the brownfield cleanup at 401 West 207th Street. We had a discussion afterwards and came up with some recommendations and comments about the remedial work action plan, which the consultants have developed. We had to submit these comments to the State Department of Environmental Conservation by last Monday, or actually by last Monday. We ended up submitting them Tuesday morning. Eliezer agreed that we could do this in the form of a letter, and we certainly should circulate the letter, I think, to all of the to all of the board members. It should be sent to them, I guess, as part of the packet. But basically, our recommendations were that state DC should conduct random checks to confirm that the professional engineers are on site to supervise the process for removing the contaminated soil and for securing the loads on the dump trucks to ensure that the work is being done properly and in accordance with the remedial action work plan. We ask that the DC require the environmental engineers at this site to be in regular contact with those who are overseeing the remediation at the two adjacent brownfield sites, also at that intersection at 9th Avenue and 207th Street, to avoid any potential conflicts and to minimize the amount of truck traffic in that area. We also pointed out that that the trucks leaving this particular site are going to be going over the 207th Street Bridge to the Major Deegan Expressway and then down to the Cross Bronx and over to the GW Bridge. And we recommended that the same route be used by the trucks that are removing the contaminated soil from the two other sites. We asked that the MTA be fully informed of this work so that it can take whatever precautions are necessary to safeguard the 207th Street subway yard, which is right next door to the site. We asked that the results of the community air monitoring plan be reported to Community Board 12, especially when the levels exceed what's appropriate and when corrective actions are ordered by DC. And we asked the DC report to Board 12 upon completion of the remedial work at the site so that we know that it's been, to let us know whether or not it's been successfully completed. So those were our comments to State DC. On the COVID situation, the latest statistics show that our positivity rates of the week ending on the 12th, Monday, were higher than the rest of the city. I'm sorry, were lower than the rest of the city. The rest of the city was at 13.1%. Our 4 zip codes were between roughly 11 and 13, just slightly under the citywide average. Our positivity rates, however, were higher than where they were the day we met our full board meeting on the November 22nd. 289 new cases last week. So we now have had a total of 63,024 cases since the beginning of the pandemic. And since our board meeting, 1,744 new cases. The total number of deaths now at 979, 9 more since we met as a board. And our vaccine, the percentages of people who have taken the vaccine have only inched up very, very slightly. Catherine, a little while ago, I forwarded to you a statement that we received from the New York State Nurses Association that I had sent to Eleazar earlier today. I don't know, have you had a chance?
I literally just read it. Yeah, I was gonna say if you want to put on the new business, but now it's fine.
We put, I should bring it up now?
Yeah, bring it up now. We're a small crew.
All right, so the New York State Nurses Association, as people probably know, are in the midst of contract negotiations with New York Presbyterian. There seems as though they're at loggerheads, not surprising perhaps. So they have asked us to sign on to a letter of support, which has already been endorsed by State Senator Jackson, Assembly Member De Los Santos, Assembly Member Taylor, Council Member De La Rosa, and I don't know, should I read it?
I can share it on the screen. If you give me 2 seconds.
No,
All right. Oh, I can't share.
okay, so, okay, I can quickly read it. So we are in solidarity with nurses across. What is that?
I would say, can you just summarize the main points, like what the letter of support is asking for, actually?
Well, it's basically it's offering support to the nurses' demands for safe staffing and for various other matters that they've brought up regarding public health and local preparedness, and asking that that we should respect the service that's been provided by the nurses during this pandemic, and asking that the hospital, I guess, negotiate a fair contract. Now, among other things, it's not mentioned in that statement, but I have been made aware that the nurses have asked the hospital to hire locally to increase representation of nurses in the surrounding community. Actually, I think that is in the statement, but to provide free disease testing and vaccination services for the local community on site at the hospital, to expedite appointments for local community members to receive care at the hospital, to conduct joint health forums with the Nurses Association, and to conduct annual health transparency report and share it with the community. I think these are all things basically that we would support. I'm especially interested in having the hospital increase its vaccinations that it offers to people in the community, considering the fact that our vaccination rates in Washington and Inwood are seriously behind the rest of Manhattan and the rest of the city. So many of these public health demands being raised by the Nurses Association, I believe, are in sync with what the community board would want.
You have a hand from Jim.
Yep.
I'll get this all figured out. Yeah. The only question we have to ask ourselves, because this is a labor dispute, is do we as a public body like the city council actually want to take sides in a labor dispute? I just bring that to your attention.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I generally over the years, I have been averse to doing something like this. I have not wanted to get involved in labor management disputes. But in this particular case, I'm really impressed by the fact that the nurses have been raising these issues about public health and stuff that that is not just for them. They're not just speaking, I think, on behalf of their own interests, but on the interests of the community as a whole. And I would like to support those particular requests that they have made.
And the teachers union does exactly the same thing when it wants a new contract. They're telling you that, you know, they're the only ones who care about the kids. So again, you might want to harken back to your earlier conservatism on this subject. Of course, they're going to say the right things. And the other thing, you know, and not that we should, you know, cower from the Presbyterian Hospital or anything, but, you know, they are a part of our community also. So they may not be pleased with our taking sides. Now, you know, we may want to do that anyway. But again, I just, you know, raise this caveat because I think it's significant.
Mm-hmm. Remind me, Jim or Steve, from the capacity that because this is a letter of support, essentially it would be Eliezer who would be signing on, like would be authorizing for us to sign on as a board.
No, anything
because it's
we
not a
do has to
reso. This
be-
isn't. No, I'm
no,
saying
no,
because it's
no,
not being
no.
presented as a resolution.
That's not the point. The point is anytime the community board does anything, the community board itself has to decide to do it.
In this
Eliezer
case, because of the
cannot do
deadline.
anything unilaterally. Okay? The community board is the entity that does things. Thank you.
No, but I think Catherine's question was, which is the party that would actually be the signatory on the statement?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Would it be Eliezer Bueno, chair of Community Board 12, or would it be Community Board 12 by its, you know?
Well,
on
it
its
would
own?
be Eliezer Bueno speaking as the
Yes.
chair of
On
Community
behalf.
Board 12. But
Exactly.
Community Board 12 itself would have to decide to
Right. Yeah.
actually make this statement or get onto this. Thank you.
Okay, but I believe the executive committee could act, could it not?
Yes, but the community board itself has to then ratify it.
Okay.
Only the community board can decide upon
Okay.
things.
Okay, so
Thank you.
what I'm hearing is that this letter of support we have to drop onto a reso that gets voted on next week, but that's past the deadline for this
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
because
Well,
it's the
okay,
19th.
in that case, you know, well, now it gets a little more complicated. In that case, you know, as is all, well, the reso would simply say, we want to write this letter, and then the letter would be there and it would go out. That's the whole resolution. The executive committee could act on behalf of the community board. However, let's say hypothetically, for some reason, a majority of the community board doesn't want to go along with it. Then we'll be in a very, peculiar position. The other thing is why is there sort of a strike deadline or something, and they want this support before this deadline? Is that the deal?
Yeah, they apparently plan to issue the letter next Monday. So they're asking that we get back to them by then.
This, I have it. I shared it earlier. Were folks able to see it on the screen?
Well, it's
I'm gonna
gone.
try again. Let me see. Can folks see it now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. This is a letter of support for a contract campaign
On the part of the union.
on the part, yes, on behalf of NYSNA, the union for NYP. Wayne has his hand up. Wayne, while folks read and take a look at it.
Well, I was just thinking, following up on Jim's comments, if the community board wants to say, along Steve's lines, that there are a number of things that are important to the community or the public in general, not necessarily just the nurses, then perhaps what the community board could do is, instead of, rubber stamping this letter or this approach, is to craft something that is addressed to both the hospital and the union, pointing out the things that are, from our perspective, important to the general public, and asking each to negotiate in good faith to ensure that those items are addressed.
Steve, what do you say to that suggestion?
Well, I mean, that really changes the direction of what we've been asked to do.
Yeah, but that's what we've been asked to. But my point is, we can think independently. And if we want to say along your lines that there are things in there that are not just the union's position, but are important to the general public, let's highlight them and then ask the parties involved on each side to negotiate in good faith to address them. This way, we're not saying we agree with the nurses union and you, the hospital, you're the bad guy, take care of it. And we're not saying to the to the nurses, we agree with the hospital, you nurses, you need to agree with that. We're saying we're the community board. There are things that are relative to healthcare that are important to the community, the public, and we want each of you to make sure that in your negotiations, you negotiate in good faith to address these.
Well, I mean, in theory, I have no problem with that, but let me just say that one reason why I'm feeling more disposed to support the nurses outright is that our recent experience with them, especially with respect to the Allen Hospital issue, has been that they have been cooperating with us and have been a source of information about this issue, which and have given us information which the hospital has denied to us. So I don't balance them as necessarily as being equal parties, because in terms of how they have dealt in recent years with the community board, I have found the nurses to be much more cooperative with us. And what I should also mention perhaps is that maybe because of this relationship we've developed with the Nurses Association, it looks as though the hospital is trying to discourage them, let's say, from coming to the community board with information, because one of the demands made by the hospital is that the Nurses Association should not issue any communication or derogatory of the hospital's reputation in the community, disparage the quality of care. And so it seems as though that might be aimed, at least in part, at appearances that the Nurses Association has made before our committee.
Okay. Jim has a hand, and then I want to kind of get us to a resolution point here. Go ahead.
Thank you. I, by the way, totally agree with Wayne. We shouldn't take sides. It's all very nice that the union is more cooperative than the hospital is. But again, if I were a union and I had the ability to be cooperative, that'd be a wonderful tactic to get support from the community board. Again, these are not children, this union. They're a very smart union run, nurses are very smart people. And that means the people who run their union are equally smart. So I actually, I'm very pleased with Wayne's idea because, and if we want to, just to, I don't suggest we do, but, our points basically mirror the things that, this union letter supports. So we could even say, interestingly, these are consistent with this other letter that supports the union. Now, I don't think we should do that. I think we should just come up with the stuff, that we want done. And again, stay impartial, because I think we as a governmental body, that's how we ought to behave. And we could even reach out, when we could reach out, for example, to the council people and ask, whether the council does such things or whether they, as the same kind of public body we are with somewhat more power, would advise against doing such things.
So they signed on to the letter. That was the part that I shared on the bottom. So
Oh, that
assembly,
is true, but
the city
well,
council.
no, individual council people signed on to the letter. The New York City Council did not sign on to the letter. There is no resolution of the city council supporting. See, and that's a subtle difference, but it's important.
It is.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve. I know we got more committee reports. We have this here. The recommendation of two folks so far is crafting. I mean, again, this is part of a campaign that sounds like they're starting for towards their contract. So if it's perhaps that at the next committee meeting, there is a resolution that addresses NISNA's ask, because they are around, again, all things that we as health and environment, I would say, and the board have been supportive of. I would say that also does bring up an interesting point again that at some point we should discuss in terms of like how we operate. And I think it's come up in the past around letters of support. So whether it's schools, nonprofits, like we tend to have the same conversations around how are we approaching letters of support. So we can put a practice together there.
Yeah, but let me remind you of the official edict, because way back when we had committees that sent out their own letters of support and it was chaos. Again, a letter of support comes from the community board and has to be approved by a vote of the community board. Thank you.
All right, so in effect, are we tabling this to the committee?
I think it's an ask to make a reso on behalf of the committee. Is that right, Wayne? So that the whole board can vote on it. Because it's not necessarily like, yes, we're going to vote to add our name. It's that we're taking the language that, we have to draft the resolution saying that we're in support of, what's the line that they have? Of benefits and wage increases for nurses and retirees with no cutbacks.
Well, that's taking their side.
But to some effect, right? Because that's what the exact language there. So the committee would have to discuss what they want the letter, or I guess not the letter of support. I don't want to say that, but what the ask is on behalf or what we're in support of.
So my suggestion was, following on Steve's comments, is there are, I guess, in that letter of support or in what they're negotiating, there are matters that are relevant and important to the public, not just to the union. And what we're saying is, like, in particular, we are, supportive of that. And my suggestion, so that we are, presenting ourselves in a little more balanced way, is for a resolution that, is, asking for a letter of support that says, these are, identify what are those items that the community board finds to be of importance to the community, and asking, each of the parties to ensure that in their negotiations, they are addressed. And so it's taking what was given to us, and instead of rubber stamping it, modifying it so that, we are, being a little more judicious. We're saying that, we understand this is what you're asking us to do. Some of that is very important to us, and we want to make sure that you and the parties that you're negotiating with address them.
All right, so highlighting the particular community-oriented issues.
Exactly.
All right, so let me check with them and find out what the timing is and whether or not this is a resolution that I can hold for my committee meeting in January, or whether it may have to come before the full board under new business this month.
Okay, that's fair.
Very good, very good.
Okay,
Thank you.
let me, and before I leave, is Mario and
They're
Emily,
are they next?
are they next?
Yes, they are next.
All right, so Catherine, at our Health and Environment meeting, we discussed, I believe, having a joint meeting with Housing and Human Services. And could you refresh my memory? I think it was to discuss not just the sanitation issues raised by Community Board 4 relating to how individual apartment buildings collect and their waste and put out their garbage, but did we also want to discuss the recent city policy on dealing with the mentally ill on the street homeless?
That was precisely it. That was
Right,
precisely
right.
it.
So what I'd like to be able to figure out, maybe Ebenezer can help us, is could we have a joint meeting in which we meet for the first, let's say the first hour together, or the first hour and a half, and then break apart into separate groups without having people, I mean, is there a mechanism for doing that without having to close the meeting and having people to call in all over again?
That's I'm gonna since I've been
That's-
using mute,
that's
that's a
something
little
that-
tough. It would be
No,
a
that
step.
we do that with Zoom all the time. You can have a you just make 2 sub meetings and people go to one or the other.
Right.
And
It could
there
be
they are.
confusing because it's like you don't know, you would have to know, for example, this committee on these or these subcommittees at 2 different times will start precisely at that time, right? So let's say if it was the first hour and then people at the 8 o'clock mark, 7 o'clock mark would be going. But I mean, I would suggest, given the depth and the breadth of the topic, that perhaps it is calendared as just a joint meeting, and not necessarily have 2 separate meetings that month.
So just forego the rest of our regular agenda.
Yeah, like make it a special meeting, but I mean, that's
Okay, well, listen, Mario and Emily haven't even heard this idea yet, so I don't even know if they like it. I'm dropping it on them all at once now. So maybe they like it, maybe they don't. Okay.
Yeah, Mario, it's your time anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks everyone, and good evening. Hi, Steve. I think that's a great idea, actually, because I was just talking to Emily about what we're doing for the January meeting, since we are still trying to confirm HPD to join us at a future meeting. So if it's all right with Emily, I think that could be a great idea. In terms of timing, I'm not sure what would be most appropriate. If January, do we want to kind of just do that for January, or maybe February, so that way we can kind of close out on other things that our committees are working on separately, and then plan appropriately for February. So maybe, Steve, we can take this discussion offline and sort out the details.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Great. Maybe what I can do is I can give a quick recap of what we did earlier this month, and Emily, you can add anything that I may have forgotten. We were joined by the Department of Buildings, which was really great to have. We've been kind of chasing them down for a little bit. And so we had someone join us from the Department of Buildings for 2 issues. One was to discuss the process for requesting an after-hours letter of support, and so an after-hours work variance. If you all recall, we've had several developers come to our meetings asking for a letter of support for after-hours construction. And so, Mama, can you help him? Yeah, sorry. And so they came to the meeting and expressly, they did state that they do not need a letter of support from the community board in order to review a request for after hours work variance. And so with that, we then went into a discussion with the Riseboro from 37 Hillside property and some of the tenants in the nearby area. And we went into a kind of discussion about it, in which ultimately we as a committee decided not to grant this letter of support. There were a lot of concerns that were raised by the tenants regarding that the construction workers were working at all hours of the night, and they sent a lot of emails to not just the committee, but also to the office staff. And so ultimately we decided against it as a committee. The second part that the representative from DOB joined us was to talk about two buildings that were identified on the distressed buildings list. It's 705 and 709. I believe it's Fort Washington. It's around 170th Street. I believe those are the two buildings. And Emily could correct me if I'm wrong. And so we did have some tenants from those two buildings. Those two buildings are actually in court right now, where it's been a kind of an absentee landlord. And, thanks to Aisha and her advocacy, kind of raising some of the issues on that. Pictures were shown about how, the buildings, are like, you have people, squatters. One of the buildings doesn't even have like an entrance. It was just really, really bad situation. And so the tenants did feel quite happy to have someone from DOB to hear some of their concerns. And so they've kind of, taken that forward to discuss. And then I guess maybe I'll pass it on to Emily for anything if she wants to elaborate on either of those points or add anything that I may have missed. But I'll just add quickly is that the committee was considering bringing forward a resolution to commemorate International Human Rights Day. I kind of decided against that to kind of think about, in terms of timing. It was something that I was going to kind of put together, and we thought, in my own kind of reflection, I think there might be a better time where there's kind of more time for committee input. So just wanted to flag that because I did raise it before in previous conversations. I just wanted to share the update on that. So that's all for me. Thank you. Emily, over to you.
Thanks, Marielle. I think she basically summarized everything pretty well. If anyone wants to know a little bit more, I can probably elaborate, but she summarized it very well.
Wayne, you have a question?
Yeah, concerning the two distressed buildings.
Sure.
I wonder if HPD's 7A program still exists. I think that allows the tenants to go to court and basically take over management of the building, and then if they go through what used to be the tenant interim lease program, it may be something else now. They could apply to become the owners of the building. But if you have buildings that are not being taken care of by the owner, there used to be methods of having the property taken away from the owner, and either the city takes over or the city has it in a program that allows the tenants or the tenants and a CBO to run the building.
Right. So just to address that, I think Adriana mentioned that usually when this happens to buildings, that's exactly like you said, cities could take over, but apparently these owners have not been responsive, and they have to like fill out certain paperwork for them to do that. And the weird thing though is that's the whole point of the program. Like if an owner isn't responsive, I feel like if an owner is not responsive, that they should just take action, because the condition of these buildings is honestly, it was horrific. I wanted to cry. I feel like if I was like living in these buildings, I'd just rather die, because it was so bad how they showed images of like homeless people defecating, the rats running up and down, and like it was just really bad. So I feel like that program probably has these like loopholes that has kept, according to Adriana, Department of Buildings from like actually taking over. And yeah, Marielle.
The Department of Buildings wouldn't take over, but I believe it's.
Or, yeah, the
The
city.
city or the tenants would take the landlord to court. It's a
Mhm.
court proceeding.
Correct. So to add on to what Emily just shared, so they are being represented by HBD in court right now. And so the issue is apparently, from what the representative Adriana shared, they continue to fine the landlord. They pay it, but they don't really make the corrections on the violations. And so they're kind of in this continuous loop, unfortunately. I understand that they recently went to court. I'm not sure kind of what came out of that, or any kind of proceedings and so on. But the tenants are now in touch with the Department of Buildings directly to kind of see what can be addressed and how some of that can be remedied. We did encourage them, of course, to reach out to the electeds, to also raise some of the concerns, because the pictures were really like, no one should ever live in these types of conditions. There were apartments with holes in them. They had to like pool their own money for heat. The residents together had to pool their money to have like glass in terms of the front lobby door. Like, no one should ever have to live through something like that. So yeah, thank you, Wayne.
Steve, go ahead, and then I have a point before we move on to Faye.
Well, I just want to reaffirm what Wayne said earlier. This does seem to be a perfect example of a situation where the courts would appoint a 7A administrator to manage the building because the owners are evidently not doing their job. And so if they're being represented by HPD, I would assume HPD should be petitioning the court to have a 7A administrator appointed. This building would not necessarily be eligible for the TIL program unless it's in tax arrears and the city takes over the ownership through foreclosure. But certainly a 7A administrator could be appointed, and I'm not sure what the role would be of the Department of Buildings. My recollection is the distressed buildings program is being run by HPD, and it's HPD that's taking this building to court. The buildings department would get involved if there are structural problems with the building, but if there are facade issues or elevator issues, major structural issues. But code enforcement questions and the maintenance of the building as a whole would fall under the jurisdiction of HPD, which is why I assume HPD has initiated a court action. Maybe we should talk to the HPD attorney and find out whether or not they are seeking the appointment of a 7A administrator. That would appear to be the answer.
Before Mario chimes in and responds, two things I wanted to clarify. It was 705 and 709 Fort Washington?
No, it's a side street. It's either 170th or 171st Street.
Okay. Oh, you meant like along Fort Washington. Okay. And then two, what I was going to say, if there were tenants present at the Housing and Human Services, and obviously because they're being represented by the city, they are in tap with that. But I think it would be really helpful to think about what are, asks that the tenants may have, whether that's in terms of their struggle in terms of their housing and their homes, or if there's additional resources that they need that we as a board can be useful. So whether that's, if they're going to return, is it that our electeds need to be present? Isn't that maybe some of the, organizations that do this work can be there? Or, what other bridge we can offer to them?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. On Steve's point, so the Department of Buildings, the reason why they also address this is because some of the issues are also facing the common areas of the building. And so what we were told from the representative is that if it's a common area, the Department of Buildings has a jurisdiction. Now, if it's kind of like within a person's apartment, it would be HPD. And we've been trying to get someone from the alternate enforcement program to join us from HPD. And that's been a little bit of a struggle to tie someone down. Sorry, I'm like walking outside. And so, yeah, and to your point, Catherine, I think that's exactly what we need to think about. I wonder if, asking those same tenants to come to the general meeting while some of the elected representatives are here so that they can, kind of express and raise their concerns about what's happening in those two buildings.
Yeah, I mean, the public comment period, you know, we have our public session. And so, and a lot of folks have done that in the past, both tenants, business owners, et cetera. I mean, I don't know if Ebenezer's already been linked around, if there is a contact at HPD, how maybe the office can be of service there.
Yeah, I think we should call HPD and find out what the strategy is in court.
Mhm. Okay, cool. Will more to tune, and then if you can send me for the minutes the exact building address so I can reflect that. And then last but not least, we are on to Faye.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to report that we had 2 presentations and several announcements. I'm not going to go through all of them, but as well, I think I just wanted to discuss what I think is one of them. I found it very important. And this is about a new policy that the school safety had implemented, and that policy has to do with radio channel, which is the way in which a staff within the schools communicate when there is an emergency. As you know, most of the school, or a lot of the school in our district, they have a school safety in the building. And a school, let's say like the George Washington, for example, where sometimes from time to time they have, they challenge among the students and all that kind of, things. So what happened is I learned that they shut off officers, and on top of that, they decided to change the policy in which if there is an incident, instead of calling through the radio channel, communicating through the radio channel with the offices that are downstairs on the main floor, now I believe that they have to call at a particular number. They don't have access to that venue, the radio channel. And the problem that I found with this policy is that if there is an emergency, which may happen, anytime, like it has, quite often, they have to wait for the school system to address the issue. Now, there is a gap between by the time that they call and they receive assistance. So, and this is the thing that, we are trying to find out exactly why this policy came into place, if the superintendents challenged that, or if there was any discussions among the parents, because they're supposed to notify the parents of any, changes, especially when the issue, has to do with safety. So the thing is that the superintendent, he couldn't come or attend the meeting, and he's saying his assistant, but his assistant didn't know much about, these changes. So as a result, we placed a lot of questions, and we didn't get all the answers that we were expecting. So as I'm speaking, so I'm in limbo, as are the rest of my colleagues. And we encourage the office of the superintendent to perhaps sometime next month, he personally come and update us as to what exactly is the deal about the implementation of this new policy. Because I understand that this is something that may have to come directly from the superintendent. But if I'm going to think about how DOE operates, yes, that has to come from the superintendent. But I understand that was something that perhaps was the school safety who came up with this idea. So what we are worried about is that we need to fix the gap in which a staff do not have to wait. There is an emergency until a school safety may send, assistant. It's like calling, for example, 311 and wait for, rescue to come. So that sort of a things is where, where we are with this. Another issue beside that issue, there is a picture, I got a picture or several pictures from the, George Washington has 2 swimming pools. One of them, I think since 2011 or 2012, but, it's been quite a few years that our committee has been advocating to get this pool fixed. So they started working in one of them, which have not been finished yet. And the other one is still in limbo. We don't know when they're going to fix that. Now, the second one that they have not even touched yet, the water is so green. It's so unhealthy. And then so we brought out that issue to the superintendent assistant, but neither she could have, she couldn't give us an answer, but she promised that she will, get back to us and get more and get more information about those things. So these are I think one of the things that I consider urgent, among my conversation. If you want, whenever you can, I urge you to check on YouTube so you can see the meeting. How was the discussion? And I can tell you there was a part in there that my mind went blurry, and I was kind of like, whoa, what am I going to, say here, or how I'm going to articulate part of this conversation, because I got lost at one point. So, and we had, yes, a second presentation that it was about the climate jobs in New York, and that also deal with the carbon-free and healthy school campaign. This is a campaign that has to do with the environment. And it was also very interesting because they actually did elaborate on how this campaign, it will benefit students, schools, neighborhoods, and the community. And one thing that they, I think we suggest that they probably wanted to contact Steve so they can present it at his committee. I think I found it, since this has to do with environment, I found it very, very interesting. And very last, I wanted to say that we post several announcement, and one of them, not to take so much time, is that we're gonna be the community, the northern east of Washington Heights, going to be thanking several folks in our community that make possible the light, the Christmas light or holiday lights in St. Nicholas Avenue. And among of them, I believe is the Councilwoman de la Rosa, Isidro, the organization, the Isidro serves, BITS. So they were instrumental in making that happen. So the community is very happy. Several tenant association is going to be on Saturday. We're going to meet. We may have some ginger tea for the community, and it's going to be things like 20 minutes, kind of, say thank you to them. And I guess this is it. This is my report. I want to thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, Faye, I want to point out that in the inward rezoning points of agreement, $20 million was allocated to refurbish the 2 pools at George Washington. So that work presumably is funded. And secondly, if you can send me the contact information for the woman who spoke to your committee about Climate Jobs New York, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
And at the last executive committee meeting, we discussed possibly having a presentation at your committee about how the school district is handling bullying. Were you able to make any progress on that?
Said again that the last committee we announced.
At the last executive committee, I think Eleazar had suggested that you try to have a presentation about bullying, about how the school district is handling the issue of bullying. I was hoping that you might be able to pull that together.
I still don't understand who is going. Well, I have the sounding and my equipment is not really the best. So who was supposed that we discussed this to make the presentation? Will, you talking about Will?
No, the school system has has some kind of a curriculum or a policy on how to deal with bullying, and I think
Bullying. Oh, okay.
And I think we wanted to hear how it's being handled in School District 6.
Yes, well, that's something that I've been in, well, previous year, that's a discussion that we had in the past, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that is stage, that's something that probably we can always revise. I'm also preparing, it's a great possibility that we're going to have a discussion precisely on the, remember the event that we did it back in 2011 that has to do with the, on the school system. There was a comparison and actually to educate parents about charter school and the and DOE, like the way in which students, are being, I guess, educated or trained. So this is something that we are considering to bring or revise that conversation again. And I think definitely bullying might be something that may surface on this because it's been a long time that we don't talk about bullying, but I think that would be interested in talking about that. But I totally forgot that yes, at the last meeting, we touched base on it.
Well, I tell you, it keeps popping up every now and then when you have some of these mass shootings and they question why did somebody what prompted somebody to go off the deep end and shoot and kill people, and you find out that sometimes these people think of themselves as being victims of bullying. So I think that's
well, yeah. And as you know, this is it sits in so many form and shape, you can say, not only in school but also in social media,
Oh, yes.
and as a result of that,
right.
we have seen kids that they have committed suicide,
Exactly.
Yeah. Folks, not to cut it, I know, because we could talk here all night about the topic. I think, Steve, not to belabor your calendar with joint meetings, but absolutely, this week, what came out is that the #1 cause of death for U.S. children are shootings.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely a public health concern. So if that is,
Right.
part of the committee can discuss if it's, appropriate for a joint, a hearing, or maybe it's 2 presentations in a month.
So the #1 cause of death?
Yeah, that came up. I can send the report. Actually, I had that on my
Thank you.
phone alert.
That's very important.
Oh my God.
Yes. So, we are missing a good chunk. So that's a great symbol of third Thursdays do not work for executive committee meetings. We do not have anyone present from our task forces. Is there any new old business folks would like to raise?
Well, no, not well. No, I guess no. I was gonna say something, but no.
Okay.
I have one question that has to do nothing with that, but I want to just address when I how do you call when I put the video for some reason it happened also in my meeting. It looks in the screen like I have a bunch of if it's not too much lipstick, and I'm not wearing lipstick, and I'm wondering why this is happening.
I don't know. Maybe you have a filter on your Zoom camera.
I don't know, but yeah, I don't even wear makeup, and it looks like I have so much lipstick. I say, oh my God, what is this?
Well, I mean, if it makes you feel better, I don't see any lipstick. I would send that up to Zoom folks if there's a filter for beauty besides beauty mode. Go ahead.
But I was wondering. Now it doesn't look that much, but yeah, I don't use makeup seldom, but anyway. So thank you, and a happy holiday, by the way.
Thank you. Is there any
in the meantime before the general meeting?
Sorry, is there any new business for folks?
We did get notice of a holiday party on on the Monday before the general board meeting.
Yeah. Apparently there was a lot of folks asking when's the holiday party? Can we host a holiday party? I would say what I got told to call Ebenezer in terms of the details of the menu and like what the $25 includes.
Oh. Can I say something now that you just brought up that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Something that I actually captivate my attention is that we are volunteers to this board. And although this is just a small contribution for us to have fun, but I really think that the board should at least, as a token of appreciation, treat their members. I mean, if I were to be a chairman, that was an idea that I will find way to appreciate my members, because I think that would be only fair, to do that. But it's just a comment, of course. I'm not
agree,
complaining. It's just,
I hear you. I read emails. I completely agree. I think that, in years past, I'll share it, even though somebody might not like me to share it. Folks have come out of pocket to make that holiday party actually happen without board members knowing. Obviously, as a municipal body, we can't pay for alcohol, right? But we've had, bottles donated and open bar and things of that nature. And so, but I agree. I think that, whether it's a holiday party or any kind of like interactions, we should try to aim for free as much as possible. So
no, and you want to consider this. Recently, we were talking about, increasing salary, and then the members cannot even be treated, it's just, I just want to leave you with that.
I hear that. Again, like I said, if there are questions about the holiday party, I would say call the office in terms of also like how to make the contribution. And then anything else, you can share it up with Eliezer. It's Monday Casa Tuya. It's a new place on Sherman. I've walked by it and it's very pretty. It's a new place and seems to, so hopefully we'll see some folks there.
Yeah. All right. I may treat probably some of my colleagues. Committee
It is 8
Thank you.
p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting tonight?
So moved.
Thank you, Wayne. Everybody have a great evening. See you on the screen next week.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.